impervious to the burning score of thread. The winged-tailed, fire-breathing dragons had by then been bred to a size that required more spacious accommodations than the cliffside holds could provide. The cave-pocked cones of extinct volcanoes, one high above the first fort, the other in the Pern.Then mountains, proved to be adequate and required only a few improvements to be made habitable. However, such projects took the last of the fuel for the great stone-cutters, which had been programmed only for regular mining operations, not for wholesale cliff excavations. Subsequent holds and weirs had to be hand-hewn. The dragons and their riders in their high places, and the people in their cave holds, went about their separate tasks, and each developed habits that became custom, which solidified into tradition as incontrovertible as law. And when a fall of thread was imminent, when the red star was visible at dawn through the star stones erected on the rim of each weyr, the dragons and their riders mobilized to protect the people of Pern. Then came an interval of 200 turns of the planet Pern around its primary, when the red star was at the far end of its erratic orbit, a frozen, lonely captive. No thread fell on Pern. The inhabitants erased the signs of thread depredation and grew crops, planted orchards, and thought of reforestation for the slopes denuded by thread. They even managed to forget that they had once been in great danger of extinction. Then, when the wandering planet returned, the threads fell again, bringing another 50 years of attack from the skies. Once again, the Pernese thanked their ancestors, now many generations removed, for providing the dragons whose fiery breath seared the falling thread mid-air. Dragonkind, too, had prospered during that interval and had settled in 4 other locations, following the master plan of interim defense. Recollections of Earth receded further from Pernese memories with each generation until knowledge of mankind's origins degenerated into a myth. The significance of the Southern Hemisphere and the instructions formulated by the colonial defenders of dragon and grub became garbled and lost in the more immediate struggle to survive. By the 6th pass of the Red Star, a complicated socio-political economic structure had been developed to deal with the recurrent evil. The 6 Weyrs, as the old volcanic habitations of the dragonfolk were called, pledged themselves to protect Pern, each weyr having a geographical section of the northern continent literally under its wing. The rest of the population agreed to tithe support to the Weyrs, since the dragonmen did not have arable land in their volcanic homes, could not afford to take time away from nurturing their dragons to learn other trades during peacetime, and could not take time away from protecting the planet during passes. Settlements, called holds, developed wherever natural caves were found, some, of course, more extensive or strategically placed than others. It took a strong man to exercise control over terrified people during thread attacks. It took wise administration to conserve victuals when nothing could be safely grown, and it took extraordinary measures to control population and keep it productive and healthy until such time as the menace passed. Men with special skills in metalworking, weaving, animal husbandry, farming, fishing, and mining formed craft halls in each large hold, and looked to one master craft hall, where the precepts of their craft were taught and craft skills were preserved and guarded from one generation to another. One lord holder could not deny the products of the craft hall situated in his hold to others, since the crafts were deemed independent of a hold affiliation. Each craftmaster of a hall owed allegiance to the master of his particular craft, an elected office based on proficiency in the craft and on administrative ability. The master craftsman was responsible for the output of his halls and the distribution, fair and unprejudiced, of all craft products on a planetary rather than parochial basis. Certain rights and privileges accrued to different leaders of holds and masters of crafts, and naturally to the dragonriders, whom all Pern looked to for protection during the threadfalls. It was within the Weyrs that the greatest social revolution took place, for the needs of the dragons took priority over all other considerations. Of the dragons, the gold and green were female, the bronze, brown, and blue male. Of the female dragons, only the golden were fertile. The greens were rendered sterile by the chewing of firestone, which was as well, since the sexual proclivities of the small greens would soon have resulted in overpopulation. They were the most agile, however, and invaluable as fighters of thread, fearless and aggressive. But the price of fertility was inconvenience, and riders of queen